Good afternoon, children. Don't worry, you weren't dreaming. I was just playing with my new kaleidoscope. I actually just made it. It's kind of grey and it's raining outside today. So instead of going for my walk, my little countryside walk, well, in the park, I decided to have a little crafternoon and make some cool things. And one of those things was this kaleidoscope. It's an interesting little word, kaleidoscope, isn't it? It comes from the ancient Greek kalos, meaning beautiful, and ida, meaning form or shape, and scope, meaning to look. So to look at beautiful shapes, and that's kind of what it does. So you look through this tube, and you turn this wheel, and inside there you can see the beautiful forms that you're looking at in a kaleidoscope. It's a very old invention, actually. It was made in the 1800s, so it's about 200 years old. Way before TV, way before iPads, computer games. So if you wanted to look at colours, you pretty much had to look at the rainbow, or at the sunrise, or at the sunset, or someone's painting. But moving images, they didn't exist. So this would have been quite magical, I think, to people back in the day. And even now, it's pretty magical to me. So I'm going to show you how to make that. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes you not that long at all, and it's all things you can find around the house. So let's see what you need to make this. Okay, so the tube of the kaleidoscope is going to be made out of a toilet roll. So make sure it's been used. Don't pull off all the toilet roll. Ask your parents before you use these. So that's going to be the main bit that you look down. Now, it's a bit boring looking at that, isn't it? It's just a bit of old cardboard, and it's very obvious that that was a toilet roll. So to make it a bit prettier, we're going to use a piece of coloured paper or card. And that's optional. You don't need to use that, but it just adds to it, I think. And to stick that on, you're going to use some tape. You are also going to need a cup or something round that you can use to draw a circle. And you will need some scissors to cut your circle out. And you'll need some colouring pens or pencils to draw a pretty pattern on it. Now for the mirrors, we're going to use some shiny cardboard. So you might have some of this around, or if you don't, you can actually just use some of the card that you're using here, or any kind of card, and you can put some glue on there, and you can glue some foil onto that, and when it's dried, you can cut that out and use that as if it was coloured card. And you could, even if you wanted to make two, you could experiment with using this ruffled bit, or you could get some nice fresh stuff out there. All of these things that I do are usually experiments, so you can add your own little bits and you can try your own things and see which ones work. Alright, so let's see how we make this. So we're going to start off with our tube. This is our toilet roll tube, and we're going to make that pretty. So I'm going to get a piece of coloured card, and it's going to be exactly the same length as my toilet roll. So I'm going to put it exactly at the end. So that's matching perfectly. We call that flush. So I've put the roll flush with the edge of the paper, and that means that if I draw these lines, I've now got two lines exactly the same distance from the edge of the paper as the toilet roll. And I'm going to join those lines. I've just realised I haven't got a ruler. I'm going to use this piece of card. I'm going to join those two lines up very carefully. If I put my pen here on one, and I slide the paper so that the other mark is right there, then I can just join those up, and I know that that's a straight line. It's parallel with the edge of the page. Now it needs to be long enough to go all the way around your toilet roll with a little bit extra. So probably, it doesn't have to be exact, I'm going to say about there. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut that out. So I'm going to use my scissors. If you are using scissors, you should do so with an adult, because they can be dangerous. And I'm going to cut really carefully along there, so keep my line nice and straight. And then there's my dot from how long it needs to be. And I'm just going to cut down there. So now I've got a square or a rectangle of coloured paper. And this should be exactly the same length as my toilet roll. And I'm going to secure that with a piece of tape. So, tape, paper, toilet roll. Okay. Try and make it match up. Okay, that. Okay. So that looks already much nicer, doesn't it, than just a little old toilet roll. So that's the tube, the scope, the bit that I look down for my kaleidoscope. Now the next thing I need to do is take my shiny card, or your shiny card with foil on it, and what I need to do with this is make 3 slits, which are going to be my mirrors, and they're going to go inside in a triangle shape. 1, 2, 3. So they need to be slightly smaller than the diameter of the tube. So the diameter is the width, the length between across a circle. So I can measure across the circle like this, and it has to be a little bit smaller. Oops, you can't see what I'm doing there. It needs to be a little bit smaller. So my toilet roll is here. That's what I'm doing there. So I'm going to say a tiny bit smaller. There's my line there. I've done this before, by the way. So measure that carefully. Now I've got my 2 lines. I'm going to use another piece of card because I haven't got a ruler. You should use a ruler, by the way, because it's quite difficult to use the paper. Okay, there we go. There's one. And then what I'm going to do is a little trick. Oh, I forgot to say, it has to be the same length as your tube. So I'm going to put a line. Can you see what I'm doing? A line here. Okay, and I'm going to cut. In fact, look, before I do that, I made a mistake there. So that's the line for how long it is, and I'm going to do that a bit further along here. You'll see why in a second. So I've got 2 dots there, and that is the same length as my toilet roll. So that means that I'm going to be able to draw another parallel line. If I match those dots up, they should be the same distance. Oops, each should be the same distance from the edge of the page, which means my line will be perfectly parallel. So what I'm going to do now, you can't see me, I'm going to cut very carefully along here, and then I'm going to cut my first strip out like this, really carefully, keeping exactly at the line. If you're cutting, here's a tip: instead of doing lots of little things like this, you should open your scissors as wide as you can and put them right where the cut starts, and look above them so that the scissors cover up the line, and then do one slow, careful cut, and that cuts it into a strip. And I'm going to use that as a template now. So I'm going to, you can't really see what I'm doing here, I'm going to put that strip over here, and I'm going to mark, in fact it's probably easier if I do that with a pencil. So I'm going to use that to draw my little line. That's my second strip, and then there's my 3rd strip. Oopsie, it's very tricky. Okay. So now I'm going to cut those 2 out, and that's going to be my 3 strips, which will act as the mirrors for my kaleidoscope. Okay, I've made a bit of a mess there. You're going to do this much more carefully. So there's my 3 strips of reflective card, my 3 little mirrors. Now they need to go inside this tube, and they need to make a little triangle. So I'm going to put the first one in, and then I'm going to put my second one in, and then I'm going to try and squeeze my 3rd one in here. Now it's a bit fiddly, so let's see how we go. Maybe it's a bit too long. I'm going to take a little bit off. Which one is the one that's longer? Have I cut that wrong? Maybe it's these. It's because I didn't keep to my lines, so I'm going to just trim that line off. That's why it's really important to be very, very accurate with these. Let's see if they're the same length. Yeah, they should be okay. Okay. So here's my first one. Here's my second one. And here's my third one. Yeah, so it's good that it needs to be snug, so it needs to be you need to push it in a little bit, because if they're too small, then they're just going to fall out. And if they're too big, then they won't fit. But that's perfect. So now you can see that I've got my 3 mirrored edges in there. Right. So the next thing we need to do is to we're going to draw around a piece of card onto which we're going to draw a nice pattern. So I'm just going to use what I used here because I don't want to waste that. So I'm going to draw around my cup, and here's a tip: if you put the edges of the cup of each side up to each side of that card and then draw around that makes it much easier to cut out later on. And when you're drawing around here, remember you put your pencil as far into the cup as you can, and you don't let it move out at all, and that will keep it nice and circular. So there's a perfect circle, and now I'm going to cut it out again really, really carefully. Now again, I'm rushing. A lot of these videos I'm just trying to show you how to do it, so I kind of rush through it, and often it doesn't work out as nice as it could. So you should take a lot more care. And you can spend a whole afternoon doing this. It's actually nice at the moment because it's raining outside. Usually I'll be going for a little walk in the park and looking at the trees and the flowers, but today I'm quite happy to be inside doing some crafty things. Okay. So there, I've got a nice little circle, yeah, and I've got my nice little tube. Now I need to put a hole right in the middle of my circle. Now there's different ways of finding the middle. You could use a ruler to measure the diameter, and then you half the diameter, and then you do the same that way. Or what I tend to do is I'm going to fold it really carefully, and I'm not folding it all the way along, I'm just pinching it just in that middle bit, just the middle bit. That's all I care about. And there's a little line just in the middle, and then I'm going to do the same thing here, and I'm going to just pinch that middle bit. And the point where the first line meets the second line, that's the center of your circle. So I found that now. Now I'm going to use my pencil to poke a little hole in there. Be careful when you're doing this, because this pencil is going to come out the other side, so you want to make sure your fingers are not here, but here. Okay, I'm going to put that in there. Okay. There's my little spinny thing. So what's going to happen is, when you look through here, parts of this are going to spin around. Now, you can keep that pencil in actually, and that's going to be holding it in there, or you can use a straw to do that, or anything long really, even a stick that you find outside, as long as it's not too long. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rest that on like that. Actually no, I've changed my mind. I'm going to change that around because I don't want that sharp pencil sticking out that way where it might hurt somebody. So I'm going to put it this way around. Okay, and you want just a little bit sticking off on the end there. And then you can see that this is here. So what I'm going to do now is fix that onto there with a bit more tape. If I can find the end. Okay. So I'm going to use a couple of bits here. So I'm going to put one piece at the bottom, nice and carefully. Yeah. And then I'm going to put another piece at Now, because you're going to be putting your eye here, it's very, very important that this sharp bit of the pencil doesn't stick out here, because if you put your eye to here and there's a pencil there, I'm sure I don't have to tell you what's going to happen there. The same as we don't want it sticking down there. And we don't have to worry too much about this, because we're going to put something on the end of that in a minute. But this is the beginning of our kaleidoscope. So when you look down there, and you turn this, you're going to see some patterns, but at the moment you can't see patterns because there's nothing on it. So that's the next step. So we're going to take this off, and we're going to decorate this. Now I'm just going to decorate it really quickly because I'm just showing you how to do it. So I'm just going to do maybe some lines like that. You, of course, I know how artistic the children at St. Joseph's School are, so you're going to do some beautiful artwork. Beautiful, beautiful. Put a little yellow in there. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. I don't know why I'm doing it like that. And all of this is going to be reflected into different compartments, so it doesn't really even matter if it's shapes, if it's anything that looks good now, because it will look good when you start looking down at. What should I do? Should I put some, maybe I'll do some swirls. You could do like a spiral if you want. Yeah, I don't have that many colours at the moment, so I'm just using a few of them. I'm going to put some dots in there maybe. Maybe, what other should I use? Have I used a bit of purple? I love a bit of purple. A bit of purple there. Okay. Nice and colourful. You will spend a lot more time making that look lovely. Okay, so the final bit is we're going to put that back on, facing this way. And we're going to use, oh, I've lost it now. I got some blue tack out earlier. Let me go and find my blue tack. Okay, I've got my blue tack, but you can use plasticine or you could use some Play-Doh. If you don't have any of this, what you can also do is use a straw and then just bend the straw over at the end, and that holds that in there. But I'm going to use this. And that's just going to keep the circle with the pictures firmly on there, and it's also going to stop there from being a sharp end that might hurt somebody. Okay, so now I've got this. So the idea is, as you turn this, let's see if you can see what I can see. Where's my camera? Oh wow, look at that. So you can see it turns, because there's 3 mirrors. Each mirror is reflecting all of the other mirrors. So you end up getting some really cool shapes. And it's kind of like chaos, isn't it? It's madness, but it's also kind of scientific as well. And that's beautiful, isn't it? And you can go backwards and forwards. I mean, even now in 2020, that's pretty cool. But can you imagine in the 1800s, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, they didn't have TVs, they didn't have iPads, they didn't have computer games. That would have been quite an entertaining thing to look at for somebody that long ago, wouldn't it? Okay, so can you see, even with my simple little pattern, it makes all of these different shapes in there. And it's just from turning that round. So if you're in year 3, 4 or 5, you've been learning about lights and mirrors, so maybe you can apply some of your scientific knowledge to this. What's happening to the light? And how is it being reflected? Maybe you can remember what happens when you put 2 mirrors up to your face. You end up seeing lots of reflections of yourself. Can you use that knowledge to work out what's going on with this kaleidoscope? Okay, I'm going to leave you to it now. So it doesn't take that long, and you get something that you can play with that looks cool. I could look at that all day, you know, I really could. It makes a nice change from the grey drizzle and the low clouds outside at the moment. It makes me feel like it was last week when it was sunny and blue skies. Okay, good luck children.